everyone. I'm just trying to make sure that it's in horizontal mode. So I'm just slightly early. Oh, again, I tell you. Well, I tried my best. We're going to just keep on trying. Hello, everyone. I really tried to make sure I did not hit any buttons before hitting live. And I don't know what's going on. But hello anyway. Okay. Can you hear me? Though it is vertical. Just wondering if I'm coming in loud and clear. Thank you very much, Marjorie. Nice to see you, to see that you're here. And I will get this vertical horizontal thing fixed once and for all. There's got to be a trick just before you go live. Well, this is where a sense of humor really comes in. Hello, Lady Red. Nice to see you here. All right. So, welcome back to Create With Me. And my plan is to keep this going for 8 weeks. So this is week number 4, and we have 4 more. We might squeeze in another 1 or 2, depending on how far along we go on this intuitive art journey. And if you receive my emails today, if you have signed up, give me a thumbs up, because I did send out a more thorough list, a materials list, as we progress through this art process. And it's just here. This is the one I sent. Core materials for intuitive layers, different types of papers, adhesives or mediums, paints and inks, mark making tools, and your studio essentials. So I hope that was helpful. And I've added it to the sign up page. And when you sign up, this is what you get. It just gives you some mindset, the kind of practice that we're doing. Just some prompts if you get stuck. Start with what you have nearby and some ideas. The new core materials list, and of course our trusty mark making reflections sheet. I have found, especially further exploration, and I noticed there is not one on here about layers. And I know I have that in my self-reflection sheet that you get when you sign up for my newsletter. I've got a few more in there where it's a self-reflection sheet and your art prompts. So I think there's about 60 art prompts, and we'll get into that further as we go. So hello and welcome if you are new here. If you just want to give me a thumbs up if you're new. And if it's not there, Marjorie, because I'm trying to remember, did I send it in the reminder email for those who already signed up? Or did I include it in, so if you've already signed up, you got it when I sent it out Monday morning. And not in today's reminder email, but I will check to make sure that now there'll be 3 different downloads when you sign up. But if you already did, it was sent to you on Monday. And I think it's Let the Layers Lead, August 5th, which is today. So I just needed to say those few things. And as we progress through this intuitive layer process, this is just a snippet as to what's in my 5-day free course. In my 5-day free course, we go into much more depth. I'm showing you and demonstrating in much more thorough steps with different papers, different techniques and different ways to create those layers on your collage papers, especially when you're starting out. It's so much simpler just to use different substrates. Maybe you want to use something a little stiffer, like last week's page or the page before. So we're going to use this today in the demonstration. Okay, Marjorie, did you sign up for the Create With Me? If you did, you should have gotten some things. The sign up is not an email. It's a it's a sign up form, and it's below all my videos, especially in the Create With Me series. And if you already, and it's not necessary, but it's a fun way to know what's coming up next week, what things you'll need, and any other freebies that I'm offering. So it just keeps you in the loop. Okay, so let's get started with today's session. Let the layers lead. Okay, so today we're going to gently explore how to build intuitive layers. Well, what does that really mean? Well, there's some planning, of course, your materials that you want to use. There's an intention, which is usually the feeling of, well, I want to make some really warm layers. I want to make calm layers, bold layers. I want to layer how I'm feeling. So those are the intentions that you would have. Other than that, it's selecting the materials that you have at hand and your papers, collage papers that you have made. And the other thing that we're going to add on today is the transparent collage papers, because there is the magic in these intuitive layers. So I've gathered, so you don't have to have anything fancy, expensive. As you can see, this is just graphing paper that I love because it's aged and it starts yellowing, and that is the coolest thing because it goes with the patinas. This is, I believe, what is it? Yes, this is Deli Wrap. I'll show you my brand. I've just ordered this on Amazon, 500 sheets, and you just pull them out. They fit beautifully on a jelly plate. And let me know if you would like to take a deep dive or a deeper dive into jelly plate layers, which are also intuitive. So this is your Deli Wrap. So on your deli wrap, you can use a brayer, you can use a brush, and I will demonstrate. And I've made a couple of examples before going live today. This was all of those marks and layers that we made in color. And this is just, I think that was week 2. And this is just cartridge paper. So it's heavy bodied and it's nice and strong. It gets stronger when you add more paint to it, of course. These are various collage papers that I have made, and I'll just go through them quickly. This is made with a toothed, okay, it's at my other table. It's like a color shaper. It's a silicone tool that has teeth in it. So it's a catalyst wedge, but it's the toothed one. They come in plain. They come in so many different things. I did not want to grab that today because that's sort of like a special tool. I wanted to use tools that you may have already, simple tools. But I like this just because it has a water, to me, that's water, the energy. As you can see, depending on the paint that you use, this one is more opaque, but other paint you would be able to see underneath. An old text page just brushed with paint on it. More deli wrap with at least 4 layers. So there's the blue. This is ink just dropped on it, alcohol ink, spatters, and stamping with a Dixie cup. That was the last layer. This is from a ghost print on a jelly plate where I've held the Dixie cup and slid it across so it moves the paint, which creates more negative space, which is better when you want to put it over another layer because some of that layer will show through. And that's the secret sauce. This is the nicest, simplest way to add that layer on top, because when you use, for the thinner layers, I use Liquitex acrylic medium gloss. It comes in matte as well. I like gloss. It's fluid, and it's really easy on your thinner papers. But the deli wrap is stronger than a tissue or a tracing paper. And this is paint. And what we're going to do is I'm going to just show you where you might start. You have some scrap collage papers lying around that you've started, like last week's. Okay, Marjorie, we will figure that out. And so this one was a cool. I also have lovely marks here, and I love the orange and pink. I'm going to start with this one first. And for demonstration purposes, I just wrote what I want to do, what I saw, what I was feeling, just so I wouldn't forget. I usually wouldn't do that, but there's nothing wrong with that. You can do this in different, it's still intuitive. It was something that you came up with. So we're going to add another bold mark. As you can see, I've started here on the side. And instead of, no, let's stick with it. We're going to use black, Liquitex fluid. A bold mark for me would be using one of my craft brushes. I call it my scratchy brush. As you can see, there's some energy in there already. So I want, and working with larger papers, you can move your arm around and really get into that energy. So I'm going to just go bold. That's all I want. Okay. So for drawing purposes, I'm just going to use some newsprint. I've started using some newsprint earlier, and what I love to do is to use the same one and let those layers build, and it becomes a really interesting collage. Once all those layers start building. Next is I want to veil it. Veiling is, you can use gesso. I usually use a titanium white, or you can use unbleached titanium. So I'm going to sort of use both, and it makes a really nice off-white. Let's see if I can get some out here. Okay. And I like to use a color shaper, but if you don't have a color shaper, it's the old Roots card, an old gift card. So I'll start with that. Now it needs to be dry, so I know it's noisy, but I really need this dry. Hang on. As I was saying, it's important that that layer is dry if you don't want it to smudge. If you're not worried about that, then that's okay. So using a card, when you're veiling, you don't want to veil the whole thing. And that's what I used to do. Just start over. I don't like this. I'm really not liking this. And then veil over the whole thing, either with gesso or something, and then you have nothing. So then it's like starting again. And all of those marks have something. They have your energy. And I really like the energy of that curve, so I'm not going to cover that whole thing. And what the veiling adds as well is some quiet space. Say if I covered too much of the turquoise or this aqua. Because there's no such thing as, mistakes in this process. Well, I could come back in. It's not the same one, now that I realize. It's my new one. This one. It's important too because this paint is more translucent than that other one, the craft paint. And the hue is stronger. So, there it is. And notice, you see this shifting. There's pushing and pulling. So there's some aqua in the background. Maybe you shift and play around with the value, lightening up, darkening. That's why just using a couple of colors is so helpful. Because once you finish making all of your papers, they all go together. Okay, so we're just going to do that. I want to put maybe a little more white here, right to the edge. And look how it shadows over that. Okay, so that's with the card. And now I'll use my color shaper. Because up here, see how the color shaper skims across and it makes these really amazing ripples. Okay. Okay. And I might feel like scoring through. just opens up that layer a bit more. Now we're going to add, I'm going to demonstrate to you all the possibilities of adding a transparent collage. So after all those marks, then you put a different size. Notice those are fine lines, and they're the very first marks we made with pencil, with China marker, with anything. And then the bold. Then, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the paper vellum, V-E-L-L-E-M. It's beautiful. I love it. I discovered it after the deli paper, and when you tear it, it goes in any direction that you like. It's amazing. I have to look up, and I meant to do that today, what is it made of? And some of you might know and welcome that information. But what I love is that it's translucent, and it really is amazing when you put it on top. So what I did is I just made 3 different patterns. This is graphite and solid marker. And what I liked is to use a torn edge showing. See, and then when you use the medium, which I'll demonstrate in a moment, I just want to show you the different effects. If you're not sure, this is what I do. I sort of hover over, and I like boldness underneath, but without, see right there is really cool. Okay, that's one. Say if I just want to cover some of it. If I was going to put it there, I would want another mark. It just enhances the transparency or the translucency of the collage. Maybe I want to echo, repeat a mark. Tearing is the best way, I feel. I'm really liking that. I might end up with that one. And white. So what it does, vellum sort of puts things in the background. It covers them, veils them. It makes them like they're there, but they're not there. I really like that. Okay, so just for demonstration purposes, that's what we're going to do. And see how this fluid, you could paint this depending if it's dry or not. I wasn't sure, so that's why I'm adding it to the vellum itself. A color shaper, a brush, it doesn't matter. Maybe I should, oh, see how it's smudged? But that's okay. Allowing for drying time is key. Now I'm going to just roll that with a brayer because my color shaper has a whole bunch of paint on it. And see how it just melts away. Some of it didn't get covered. Right under here. So it's barely there, which is really interesting. And then after it would dry, then you could add maybe some fine lines. So I'll show you with black on top. And now I'm pressing. So these are more forward, that's back, and then you have the white, and maybe you want to echo that, those vertical dashing lines. So that's just the beginning. Layers, there's got to be 4 or 5 layers on there now. And sometimes at the end, notice how it soaks in the gloss. It changes its tone. So that's really cool to do too. Some people use clear gesso or medium over all of their collage papers so they stay fixed and nothing smudges once they start using them. Oh, I know what I didn't show you. So say if you wanted to put, just say some circles on there, on that. And once you have a big page, it can last a long time if you're only using parts or some of the circles. And notice I go past the edge, so you want to go off the edge. And I usually cut this serrated edge off. Maybe some of you wouldn't need to. And it's just as you go, you learn placement, which is, of course, intuitive composition is what I refer to it as. Which is better? Which felt better? But you're not really thinking about that once you're in this mode. Now see how that becomes more transparent, but it doesn't disappear as much as the vellum. So keeping that in mind, I sort of like that. Okay. We could have added those. There's so many choices, but I'm going to move on to another piece of collage. Any questions? How's everybody doing out there? Let's move on to the warm piece that we started. I think I demonstrated warm colors and cool colors. Well, I chose the warm one to use because it's on a nice stiff piece of watercolor paper. These are my collages that I'm going to possibly glue down. And then we're going to finish up this time with the transparent collages on the top. So this was all yellow and orange and all sorts of line. Then I came in and I wanted to show different ways. So this is the white veil with the color shaper, so you can see, and see how it just calms everything. It doesn't erase it, but it definitely pushes it back. Now, if I wanted to come back in, say with a different tool, those bold lines would come back in the foreground, lying on top of the shadowed ones in the back. Now, this might not be the kind of line that I would choose. I just thought I'd show you quickly with just a bamboo skewer. You could also just use a flat brush and just do a section. And then we're going to come and cover those. So those will need to dry. But we'll come in again and add more cool marks to this future piece of collage. And the layers just keep building, and I end up loving these collage papers the best. Like this blue one. Sometimes I roll it, so you can just and you end up with amazing collage. So with this one, we started with all those marks with the pastel, as you can see. You could come in even with some more line. And don't worry at first about getting it too busy. What you learn next is to quiet it down in different sections. And it doesn't matter, because where you'll know I chose the upper right-hand corner here. Then I brought in this golden cadmium red instead of using white, just to show you, but it's just very translucent. I ended up spray painting some water on there and removing it with the color shaper because I wanted to see more of those marks underneath. But now it's super busy and it needs some quieting down. So then you could choose some nice collage, solid colors, quieter pieces. Oh, I like this. Right here, here, and we'll work here. But how I made the circles was using this is a cardstock, and I have a hole puncher, which I used last time. So negative space. And then I even ended up using the positive to go around and just make circles in a different way. So you're using one element and really exploring how far you can go with that one element. So I've got solid circles, open circles, and that circle element with the scratchy brush is also coming through. I'm liking this area, so I don't know if I want to cover that. That bright red is really bothering me, so I'm going to cover that up a bit. And it doesn't matter if something gets hidden. But it's still there. The color shaper is great for making those air bubbles go away. I like to overlap, so we'll just use one section of this paper for demonstration today. And I even like echoing the circles in a different way. And then you come in with some collage. Maybe the circles again. Notice I'm just moving it around just to see the best spot. And really taking your time in between layers and just practicing being present. And I know I'm not rushing, but I'm going a lot quicker than I usually do for these, just for demonstration purposes. But there's a lot of quiet time in between, and it's really important that we do that. So that red is pretty bright for me. See, here's a bubble there. So I'm going to push that out. Sometimes you can lift up the paper and get it before it dries. But you can always go in with a razor blade, open up the bubble, put some glue in, and glue it back down, and you won't even know it was there. This brayer really works. There. But the fibers, because they're wet, they'll stretch and change, so you might need to do that a few times. I wanted to show you the difference. This is very opaque. It covers everything. But this one, as you can see, is slightly translucent, and I love how it's echoing up here. So I'm going to just trim this off. Now, I love that. It's the same, but not. Same color, but different feeling. So overall, when you're exploring, you may not like your results because that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is exploring and letting this page guide us. And that's what the present means. Just letting things happen. Now, this was deli wrap. This was deli wrap. Now let's try a piece of the vellum. But just a small piece. I think I want it right here. So it really, as long as you get the medium on it, disappears. And all you end up is with the line. So maybe I didn't place it in the best place, but what you do in your reflection is the following. You can write it on the back. You would say, I'll just use an index card for now, and I will use types of marks I've made, the actual layers, the sequence of layers. And I don't have that at my table right now, but if you sign up for the newsletter, you get, like I said, the art prompts and the self-reflection page, which comes with everything, your materials, your layers. And I would want this information so I could remember next time what worked. So my layers were marks, mostly line, then a color, and then a bold mark. Then we veiled it with white, came in with the skewer, then this transparent collage. And then on top of that, I'll do one more layer and we'll just take a close look at this area. And if you've been watching my videos, well, I love to finish, I think it's dry now, and you don't want wet medium if you're going to use pen. It'll ruin your pens. And I can see some building up on this already. You could use black. And not too much, just a little bit. Finishing touches, I usually like to do this. Let's just demo today just for fun. So you take a wet brush, but you don't do it all over your whole work. It'll just ruin it. It's just an accent. Now that was too blobby because I have too much water on there. Let's try that again. So interesting, eh? There. Just a speckle. And it just has so many layers on there. So that's just one way, a few ways to go about your intuitive layers. And I just want to show you one more thing. One of my videos, I was talking about this piece of collage that started this most incredible blue, mostly blue art journaling page. And what I loved about it was it's thick, it has this interesting texture. This is what you call parchment tracing paper. So I tried to remake it, but I didn't want it exactly the same because you're never going to get it exactly the same. So I demonstrated, or I didn't demonstrate because I did them ahead of time. All this is blue, Payne's Gray, Liquitex, and another blue. So we're sticking with one color, different types of hues, cool, warm, and spreading it on this very thin, and you could go super thin, like this page. And then you can add color to your transparent collage. And then I did different blue marks. I used the Dixie cup and just stamped, and this will be a very interesting collage piece. And notice you don't have to do the same over the whole piece. If you just want little sections of different variety, you could break it up into quarters or halves. But you would then tear it, which is really tough to tear, but it makes a beautiful edge. And there's a really interesting piece of collage that is sort of semi-transparent. It'll pick up a very bright or whatever layer, bold layer underneath. This is where you can put words and writing, asemic writing. Just let yourself go with either an awl, a knitting needle, or the end of a brush. And this is still a little tacky, but it's so thick and it adds such a really cool textured element to your work. So I think that's it for today. As you can see, now the layers and the complexity is building, but only because you're putting all of the intuitive marks, your shapes that you're exploring all together. And that's what makes it uniquely you, your true voice. And you just keep developing that and perfecting that. So I hope today was helpful. Let me know in the comments. Nice to see some of you sticking around. And let's just take a last look at what we created today. And this would be a great dark, because it's important that you have light, medium, and dark. We sort of went to town on this, but I love this side. Some of you might like this side. Let me know in the comments. And we developed a very cool, interesting layered piece of collage. So don't forget, I go a lot deeper in my 5-day free course. Is anyone here taking that or planning to or has already taken the course? All right. So next week, sign up. You'll be knowing what the topic is, and if there's another PDF or anything that's helpful, it will be in your email. And I will see you next week. And happy creating.